Hi guys, right-wing rags like the Sun never miss an opportunity to gaslight the public when it comes to institutions like the NHS. The same newspapers have for years been complaining about how too much money is being spent on the healthcare system, how the staff are lazy and overpaid, how junior doctors are Marxist, and how the whole thing needs to be sold off as it isn't fit for purpose. The media barons who don't even pay tax in Britain will take every opportunity they can to run the NHS down. So when a story broke about women on maternity wards going through hell, Harry Cole from The Sun, who has blocked me on social media, jumped at the chance to take a few potshots at the public healthcare system. Have a listen to this.
Yeah, I just feel another one of these reports we've got to where it's reached such a critical mass that actually it's been going for so long that suddenly it is, well, why has it taken this long? Why has it taken a 38-year-old Tory MP from Staffordshire, Theo Clark, who should be absolutely praised for when she gave a speech about her own traumatic birth in the House of Commons? It was one of those sort of pin drop moments. But then, that was the moment that sort of broke the sort of camel's back. But actually now, you had these tens of thousands of women, there's billions of pounds price tag. Why does it take so long in this country, especially around the NHS? Because of its sacred cow status, because of its, any criticism of it by anyone, especially a Tory, is seen as, sacrilege, and it's sort of political poison that you could dare criticise it, that we end up basically delaying for so long, actually highlighting massive problems within our health service because it's seen as this, sort of envy of the world when it isn't, frankly. Yes, on many occasions it can be amazing, but on lots of occasions it's not. And I think we need to start being more open and honest about the failings of our healthcare system rather than shutting down a debate. And anyone who criticises it is accused of wanting to privatise it. That's just not the case.
Yeah, OK, good.
What an absolute charlatan this guy is. He has supported the likes of Boris Johnson. He has supported the Conservative Party. His newspaper has supported the Conservative Party at every turn. The Conservative Party are responsible for the failings of the NHS. They have been in power for 14 years. They have run it into the ground. They have put it in a situation where it's losing staff. It can't fill vacancies. It can't fill them because it doesn't have enough funding, and it can't fill them because of the post-Brexit visa system. It can't get the staff it needs. I've already heard from people who have explained how in the past there was maybe one nurse for every 2 women who was giving birth. Now it's gone to a stage where there's one nurse for 5 women because they don't have the staff. So if they don't have the staff, they're not able to follow patients sufficiently. And then, of course, if you have a lot of agency staff, which is part of the privatization of the NHS, you have people brought in who probably aren't trained fully or not trained up sufficiently to do the job. Or they don't have enough experience. They have the training, but they don't have the experience. And they make mistakes, or they don't do the job correctly. But this is the responsibility of the government. You can't say, well, we can't talk about the NHS and we can't criticize it as a sacred cow. No, that's not what people are saying. What people are saying is, if there's a problem, somebody has to take responsibility for it. Who should take responsibility? It's the government minister. They are ultimately responsible. Or even if you want to go above that, it's the Prime Minister himself. See, the problem here is that the Conservatives have run it into the ground. They have put so many obstacles in place of the NHS to function correctly. And now they're turning around and say, well, it's not our fault. It's the NHS's fault. It needs to adopt new practices. It needs to change with the times. It needs to reform. And of course, when they talk about reform, it's about injecting more of the private sector into the NHS. And part of the problem is the private sector. The reason there are so many problems is in part because of the private sector. Part of it is because the Conservatives have not sufficiently funded the NHS. They keep talking about how we have record funding, more funding, more funding. Is it sufficient? No, it's not. And this has to be the question put to journalists or government ministers. Is there sufficient funding? Well, they'd have to say no. Why is there not sufficient funding? The government are happy to throw £500 million at Rwanda that's going down the toilet, but they won't provide the NHS with sufficient funding. Not about record funding, not about an extra 100 million here or 100 billion there. That's not what we should be talking about. We should be talking about sufficient funding. And of course, there hasn't been over the last 14 years. So of course, on maternity wards, you're going to have terrible conditions because first of all, there aren't enough staff, and whatever staff there are, they're not trained up enough, or whatever staff there are, they're overworked. And they results in burnout, results in mistakes, and this is the consequence of that. So it really upsets me that you have people like Harry Cole who turn around and say, well, we're not allowed to criticize or talk about the NHS in any negative way because it's some sacred cow. No, you have to take responsibility for supporting a political party over the last 14 years who has run it into the ground. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.